Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Taking Up Space, a Michelle A. Mayer podcast. Always excited about coming forward, y'all. I'm going to be speaking to something that I think we all can utilize, y'all. And that is, how do we see ourselves? That's the topic of conversation today. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. The topic of today's conversation is, how do you see you? I know we all care so much about how others see us and how we are interpreted by the world and others. But really, honestly, I believe it has everything to do with how we see ourselves. If you base how you see you off of how someone else sees you, you'll be blowing in the wind like a leaf. You don't really even know how someone else sees you. The only way you can gauge how someone sees you is by examining them or listening to what they say. But all of that could be deceptive. You don't know if they're telling you the truth. You don't know if they're telling you a partial truth or even the full truth. But really the meat of the conversation today is to get you to focusing in on how you see you, and most importantly, taking your attention off of how other people see you and putting it on how God sees you. Because that's the most important aspect of your life, is really how God sees you and how you see you. I'm going to use the book of Numbers to convey this truth to you as an example of such things. I'm going to use the situation with Caleb and the 12 children of the house going out to scout the land. God has come upon Moses and told Moses that he wants the children, one individual from each tribe, to go out and to scout this promised land that he has promised to these children. He wants one individual, one male from each tribe, to go out and be representatives of that particular tribe in scouting out the land that God has promised these people. Now, we must understand that before this happens, God has led these children on a tremendous journey, y'all. I'm talking about that God has proven himself to these children. It should be in concrete, embedded in their hearts and minds amongst one another and individually, lest they are by themselves and separated from their brethren and sistren. They all should have a deep knowing of the love that God has over them. It should be unbreakable, unshakable. It should be grounded in concrete, in the concrete of their heart. It should be set in writing in Hebrew upon their heart. They should know that God does not play about them, and that God is not going to leave them, neither will God forsake them. So God in chapter 13 of the book of Numbers comes forward and says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Send thou men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel." So God has come upon Moses and has given Moses a command. And that command is to send these children out to search the land of Canaan, this land that I have promised them and that I have told them and their forefathers that I would give unto them. And he says, "Of every tribe of their fathers shall ye send a man, every one a ruler among them." So these people were not just one individual from the tribe. These were the rulers of each tribe. These are the people that ruled each tribe individually. These are the heads of the tribes. And Moses comes and gathers these people. And verse 17 says, "And Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said unto them, Get you up this way southward, and get up into the mountain, and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwelleth therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many. And what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad. and what cities they be that they dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds. And what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not. And be ye of good courage, and bring of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. So this is a time where the harvest is abundant. God has come to Moses in harvest time. It is the season where all of the fruit is ripe. This is the time that you really want to go into such a land if you were looking to prospect out and to see if it was something that is worth your time or not. This would be the opportune time to see the maximum reaping of what the earth brings forth within this particular region. And Moses gives them all of these commands and leads them, tells them to go in this particular direction and what to do. And they go forth and they scout the land. And they come back, and I want to make mention of what they found. This says here in verse 23, and they came up unto the brook of Eshcol, and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes, one single cluster of grapes, and they bare it between two upon a staff. The cluster of grapes was so tremendous that they had to bear it between two staffs. Now, we all know we go to the grocery store, we see a cluster of grapes. You can grab that thing up with one hand. But what scripture is conveying is that all of these things that grow in this land are large. They're not your normal sized produce. These are produce on steroids, if you want to call it that. To have to bring back a cluster of grapes being held between two staffs is a tremendous cluster of grapes. I don't even think we see that nowadays with all of the technology that we have in genetically manipulating fruits and vegetables. And they bear it between two upon a staff, and they brought the pomegranates and the figs. And the place was called Brook Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes which the children of Israel cut down from thence. So what they're saying, the pomegranates, the figs, everything grows large here. They even come back and say, when they come back and they're giving their report, they say of the environment, verse 28. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. Now, the children of Anak are giants. What they're conveying without saying it is that these people that live in this area are giants. When they say the children of Anak, they're speaking to the house of Anu. They're speaking to the Anunnakis, the giant people. This is their land that Caleb and the rest of these people are walking into. Just to give you an understanding, I might do a podcast on the Anunnaki in a later date, but those that know, you can Google it. So when you get an understanding of what these people are talking about and what the Bible is conveying that God has come to Moses and said, I want you to go and scout out this land that I have promised you. And I want you to take a head person from each tribe, not a middleman. I want you to take the head person. And I want you to send all of the heads of each tribe to go scout this area. And I want you to come back and tell me everything that you see. Is it good or bad? What the people look like? How you feel about the people? What does the terrain look like? Is there wood there? What type of fruit is there? Bring it back to me so I can see. And in order for Moses to say this, he must have known the reputation of this place. Lest he would have thought it'd just be like every other place that they go to. Why would he need all of these receipts to view? And then they come back and they say, yeah, the children of Anak are there. And that's like the first thing that they convey is the children of Anak are there. This sets a tone, a monumental tone for the environment. It shows spiritual prowess. It shows hierarchical rank. It shows the height of these people and their ingenuity. This place was not just guarded. This place was technologically advanced. Everything that grew there was large because it was inhabited by giants. This is the land of the giants. Giants don't eat small items. A small cluster of grapes that we have at the grocery store would be nothing to a giant. It's like taking communion to a giant. You know, the little chip, the little cracker they give you on communion? That cluster of grapes is comparable to that to a giant. So all of these things are visualizations that the Bible is conveying to someone that knows. And it goes further. And the Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. So they're painting a roundabout. They're saying they've got these giants here. They have all of this spiritual prowess and ingenuity. Everything that grows here is huge because these people are very large people. And all of these tribes of people are their workers. These are their footmen in the earth. And these are some of the people we've been warring with all along. Before I go further, I want to bring something to your attention. I saw something that sparked a memory in my mind of something that I had heard many, many years ago of the homunculus. You know, in ancient times, we've seen in biblical times that there were giants. We are hearing of the giants here being conveyed in scripture. But just like there were giants, there were very small beings as well. They were servers. They were servants to the giants. You know, many people were saying, and you hear it in biblical scripture and in the apocryphal communications of how these giants would need to devour a lot of food to maintain their strength. Goes back to what I just said about our bundle of grapes being like a communion offering to these giants. A bundle of grapes that we get from the grocery store would be considered to a giant maybe something that we would take at communion, that sized of an item. So these giants would consume a lot of vegetation. And before the flood, it said that they had consumed everything till there was nothing left, and they began consuming people. And it also says that after the flood, these giants were still prevalent in the earth. We see this in Numbers. Children of Anak. When you hear the children of Anak, you must know that this is the Anunnaki, the house of Anu. And I'm going to do another conversation on that, because if I get on it, it's going to take up the entire time that I have for this podcast. But it's conveying, it's like when you say Anak, it's like an umbrella for a number of different powerful things. Ingenuity, spiritual prowess, spiritual hierarchy, strength, size, capabilities. So you're all off on a whole nother tangent when you speak to that. But I'm here to tell you that these individuals, the sons of Anak, and many of these other individuals had the ingenuity to create individuals. They had the science, and this was big business during ancient times. This is what brings up the homunculus. They're saying that the homunculus and the likes thereof, because there were many beings being created. When you look on the walls of Egypt and you see all of these beings looking like a lion-headed goddess or a serpent or a headed person or a falcon-headed person, all of these things are metaphorically symbolic. They are. But I'm here to tell you that a lot of them were actual things, beings. They had gotten the science of mixing genetics down packed. When you look at Jacob, you are looking at a master geneticist. But what made Jacob okay and in alignment was the God that he aligned to and the purpose of his action. It's as if there's a codex or a rule book associated with things that you do in life. We see this all around us. It's not what you do a lot of times as much as it's how you do it. And in spiritual systems, it's not what you do as much as it's intention and alignment. And alignment has everything to do with the God that you are aligning to. Everything. Intention, alignment, and the God you're aligning to. So what we're seeing here, the scripture is conveying an environment. An environment where the sons of Anak are prevalent. They are the spiritual hierarchy. No one is able to defeat them in this environment. And we are seeing some of the people, some of which are God's children that have bowed to these people, and some of which are not. They come like the homunculus. The homunculus were a grafted being. They're very small people. And they were grafted. They were created by man. They were created by God's creation. God did not create them. God's creation created them. And they were born without a soul. They were born without karma. They were born without any type of genetic bloodline. Yeah. And they were a worker species. They were even species that many of these people were offering animals up to the gods. And then when the animal head count got so low, you remember King Solomon was offering 200,000 animals at a time. So if the animal head count wasn't up high enough, it would affect the natural habitat. People would be starving. There would be no meat. There would be no, livestock for the regular people because they're offering so many offerings up so often that it depletes the animal pool. So what they've done is they've created these beings that look like men, but they have no soul. They are not born of the womb. They don't align to the natural way that God created us. They have no soul, for they have no karma. They are just a separate species. And it's kind of masterful how you could view them doing this, because if they were to ever offer these people up as sacrifice to these gods, they would not incur any spiritual karma for doing so. This is one of the reasons why they did it. So, and this displeased God. This was very displeasing to God. And I don't want to get off on that, but my spirit is wanting me to go deeper into that. But this was displeasing to God. But keep that in mind that I said that. I'm going to piggyback to that another day because I want to keep going straight in the direction I'm going unless I deviate because Spirit is telling me to. But keep that in mind because that in itself is a very important aspect to where we are today as people. That is huge. That incorporates much of the world that we're living in today. And it doesn't have to do with any particular group of people. It has to do with the way things turned for the world in general. So what we see here is Caleb and all of the other 11 heads of the house of Israel, all tribes, have gone up and have seen this land. And they have seen that everything grows big here. Everything, pomegranates, figs, grapes, everything is huge here because of the ingenuity of the people that live there. It was because these people knew how to scientifically alter the genetic code of the environment to make it rise to where it's at so that they could be sustained by it. That is what is being conveyed here. Because the people were large, they were able to change the genetic code of the environment to suit their needs. This is the way of the gods, even the lower gods. They never fall to the level of which they are in. They always find a creative way of making the level they are in serve them. This is what makes you a god, friend. It's finding a creative way to make whatever situation you're in serve you. Lest you are no God if you can't do that. You're a false God. Even a false God that has been born into the world of light by genetic manipulation must ascend and adhere to this law. You see it all around you. This is one thing that is common amongst all of them. They never allow their circumstances to rob them of their crown. So where we're at in scripture is Caleb and the other 11 have gone out and they've come back with this report, and they brought the grapes and they've shown it to people, and they're talking about it, and they're saying what people are there. The sons of Anak are the sons of the Anunnaki. The sons of the Anu are there, and they got fortified walls around their city. They have construction techniques to be able to do such things. They have ingenuity. They have an organized system. They have huge produce. Everything is great. The land is flowing with milk and honey. They have the Amalekites and the Amorites and the Jebusites and the Hittites and all of these people down by the coast of the Jordan as their footmen in the earth. What we're seeing here is a mimicry of what God does. All of these people are mimicking what God does because they have nothing else to pull from. These are things that God, our creator, does. How do we know? Look at what he's doing through the house of Israel. The house of Israel is his 12-nation tribe that goes out into the earth and makes war with the nations while he wages war with the gods. So we're seeing a representation of this being conveyed by the children. And the first one that comes forward and says anything after they're hearing all of this, they've heard the positives and they've heard the negatives. They've heard that everything is bountiful and abundant. Everything is great. We really will want to go up into this place. This is heaven on earth. But the Anunnaki are there. When you hear that name Anunnaki, you don't want no part of it, friend. It's like, the Anu. Oh, I'll pass. I'll take something less. If you're not aligned properly. The Anunnaki are there, and they have their footmen, which are the Hittites, the Amorites, the Jebusites, and the Canaanites. And then Caleb comes forward. Verse 30. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses. Now, why would Caleb need to steal the people? The people in the scripture, it doesn't say that the people were upset. But again, you would need to know what the scripture is conveying for you to understand and to put yourself in it. You would have to know the reputation of the Anunnaki. You would have to know who the children of Anak are. You have to know who all of these other nations were at the time and how powerful they were to understand what the scripture is not saying. So Caleb stilled the people before Moses because obviously they are shook and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome. Caleb says, I don't know about y'all. I don't care. I don't care if it is the Anunnaki. That'll be another stripe on our arm. Can you imagine what this wind will do for us amongst the nations? He has no doubt that he is able to overcome. You ever met someone like that? That when they hear of the worst case, when they hear the truth of something, it doesn't make them want to go hide and regress and retreat and bow down and kiss the feet of somebody. It makes them say, oh, God is setting us up for a big win this time. They see it and it's positive. This is Caleb. What anyone else would see as something to retreat for, run from, Caleb looks at as totally obtainable. Totally. I'll read it again. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. He's saying, I know, friend. I don't know about you, but I know there's a few of y'all in here that know like I know. We have walked this path together. This is not a unique path that I'm on. It's not like today where we're all out here independently walking our path. These people were a coalesced group of people at the time. So everything that they went in and out of together as this group. And some felt some way about it, and some felt another way about it. But Caleb is saying, we can do this. We're going to overcome this. God is setting us up for a tremendous win. I saw this land. Man, this land is bountiful, it's beautiful. It is this, it is that, and we can do this. Verse 31, but the man that went up with him said, we be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. He's saying, all of these 11 have come forth and said, the land, everything is so huge in this land, it'll eat us up. It's overly abundant. This land has been created to sustain these huge people. Yeah, it's abundant, but this land it'll swallow us up. It's so abundant. It's going to take a lot of work to manage this land. That's what it's saying. It's going to take a lot of work to manage this land because everything grows so fast. Remember, these people that are inhabiting this land are giants. Before the flood, it said that they were devouring everything. So they have now re-emerged after the flood, and they have created an environment that will sustain them. The growth rate for the fruit, vegetables, and what have you is tremendous. It's accelerated. Everything is accelerated in this environment. The size of the output is maximized and its reproduction is maximized. So they're never in a drought. And the others that are within this text, the other 11 are saying, yeah, it's great, but it's going to be a lot of work for us to manage this. And they're giants. So, and we're going to have to war with these people. This is going to take a lot of work. That's basically what it's saying. And the congregation is starting to get turned by the head count. All the 11 are speaking words of condemnation to negate it because they don't want to do it. They don't want to go and own or inherit this land. It's going to take a lot of work. And they are afraid of these giants. And that's my word for you today in this podcast. God will lead you right in front of God's enemies. God will use you in a way to taunt God's enemies, friend. Whether you want to be in that situation or not. But it is for you to be able to always view yourself as more than capable based upon your own activity. You can't base it on what somebody else is doing, what's going on over here, what they said over there. You can't base it on the magnitude of that which you see yourself facing and dealing with these people. You've got to face the situation from an inward perspective and know who you are and rest in what you do and rest in your alignment with your God. You've got to be somewhat selfish in the sense that you've got to be able to look at yourself and say, I am aligned properly. Look at all that God has brought me through thus far. This surely is a monumental walk that God is looking to make us walk through. This overcoming the children of Anak situation. But boy, look at all the monumental things that God has led us through up to this point. Many of you can look over your lives and look back and see all the monumental walks that you have walked through, just you and God. You didn't have the support of many people to come and pat you on the back. You might not have had anyone to call, but you got through it. And you got through it because you saw yourself capable. And most importantly, you knew what was important. And that is your alignment to God. And God is saying these new seasons that come upon you are going to require you to stand firm in that same type of knowing. But have fun with it this time. This is what we see with Caleb. Caleb is looking at this like, wow, we've come in and out of many things thus far. We've come in and out of so many things that I'm not even afraid anymore. I'm interested. I'm up for the challenge. God has led us through hell and high water. And we're still here. So if God has led Moses to have all of us go and prospect this land, I'm going to look at this land while I'm prospecting it from the vantage point of me overcoming this. I'm not looking at it from the hard work it's going to take to do it. I'm not looking at it from the fight that it's going to take and the wrestle it's going to take for us to be able to overcome it. I'm going to look at this from the perspective of what wonderful life we could have in this environment. And that's all. Because of all of the walks that God has led us through thus far. He brought us up out of Egypt with great signs and wonders. Literally out of Egypt with great signs and wonders. And now we are on this monumental journey. And there's no turning back. What alternative do you have? Literally, what alternative do you have? Do you have the alternative of saying, like the other 11, no, we shouldn't go. We're gonna create a leader over us, and we're gonna go back over here to Egypt. Or can we go back to Egypt? We can't even go back to Egypt. We've got to keep moving forward. There is no backward. The car has no reverse, friend. It doesn't go to the right or to the left. It's forward only. So what do we do? And that's the word for y'all today in this podcast, because I don't want to make it a Bible study. I wrestle with trying to come to, decision on it. Is this a Bible study or is this a podcast? It's a podcast, and I have to remind myself that. The word is that there is no reverse. None. It's forward. It's forward in honor. It's forward in integrity, and it's forward in love. It's forward on the promise. You got to know the promise, friend. And you've got to be like Abraham. You've got to not get caught up in the domestic affairs. You can't get caught up in all the drama of it. You've got to stand tall and stand firm, 10 toes down in the promise. And while you're standing tall and firm and 10 toes down in your promise, have fun with it. Because it's yours. There is no losing. There is absolutely no losing when you're standing in the promise. That's the thing with the promise. There is no losing. It's my word for you today. It's all about how you see yourself. It's not about how someone else sees you. People are temperamental. I'm here to tell you, keep on living. You'll find that. One year people will be happy, the next year they'll be sad. And sometimes it might not even take a year for it to happen. You've got to know you. You've got to know that you are qualified, you are capable, and you are worthy. And if you weren't, God wouldn't have chosen you. Keep going. You're loved. Be good to yourselves and be good to one another. Peace and love.